Hey guys, this is Inderjeet Singh, and this is the first video of Linux series. We are gonna cover everything from the basic to advanced, and we will see all the advanced topic also like bash scripting in the end of this series. And if you're not from the technical background, if you just started your career from in the IT sector, then I would recommend to watch this entire series and do not skip it. And we will cover everything that necessary and that is required to learn Linux. So let's begin this lecture. So for learning Linux, do we have any prerequisites? This is a main question for non-technical background. So for learning Linux, there is no prerequisites. The first thing, because everything we will discuss here, and step by step we will learn it. And of course, I mean, you should know about something. You should know about the basic concept about how what is computer. I mean, this is, I think everyone knows about that. So if you don't know that, you can Google it and then you can come back to this series. But specific technical things you don't need to learn it. Everything we will discuss a little bit later. And if you have any doubts, right, if you have any kind of doubts related to the technical things, you can just comments on this below videos. We can start replying on the next videos. All right, we will discuss on the next video definitely. So let's see the first thing, the question. I mean, what is Linux? And before learning Linux, what I mean, before creating Linux, before the Linux, what was the problem? I mean, it was a facing, what was the company was facing the problem that they have released Linux, right? So before Linux, the Windows, Microsoft, the one who has the image to providing the operating system to everyone, and it was a commercial license based operating system, which Microsoft providing it. But it was a single user and single tasking operating system jobs. And the companies was facing issues with the environment, which Microsoft is not able to provide it. So the main problem was the multi-user and multitasking. They basically company required a multi-user and multitasking operating system, and Windows was not Windows were not uh, Windows comes later after Linux, but Microsoft was providing different operating system like a DOS and different operating system. So the Microsoft was not able to provide that kind of functionality, and companies are really frustrated and want to switch on another operating system. And they have decided to create another project, and the project called name is Unix. And of course, I think you might know about that. Some people comparing Unix and Linux, that Linux is a totally clone of Unix. We will discuss about that also. All right, so before learning Linux concept, you need to understand about the Unix concept. Unix, what is Unix, and history of Linux, right? So initially, the problem was the multi-user and multitasking, and the companies decided to move on to the another operating system. And the AT&T and GE decided to create a new project called Unix, and in 1964, and it was started with 6 or 7 people. I mean, they inline 6 and 7 people in that project, and it was started on the Bell Labs. This project was started in the Bell Labs, but the problem was it was I mean, not easy to create multi-user and multitasking. Multi-user and multitasking means that you can do multiple tasks on the same time with multiple user. That means multiple user can do multiple tasks with the one operating system. You don't need to worry about the reliabilities and scalabilities that operating system they basically required. So, but it was challenging. I mean, it was not easy, and they have 6 or 7 people was working on that project. And after 2 or 3 years, I mean, they decided, because it was a frustrated project. It was not easy, so they have decided to withdraw this project after 3 years. And finally they decided to withdraw this project. But in that project, there is a two people called Dennis Ritchie and Kim. Thompson. They are the two people that basically decided. They basically decided to re-implement this project after I mean after withdraw this project by the officially they withdraw this project, uh, and but Dennis and Kane decided to work together, and they decided to work unofficially, and they started working out in 1967. Yes, so they decided it, and they was working individually. They were no one is supporting it. Organization is not supporting both of them, and they called it Unix. Instead of Unix, they called it Unix. So initially the project name was Unix, but when the project was finally withdrawn officially, and because they cannot use the same name at that time, so they decided to do unofficially work at the free time, and they that uh, Dennis and Kane decided to make the name called Unix. And the interesting part is they did they did what the company was required. And they completed that project in 2 years, in 1967 to 1969. And once this project was completely done, then again company decided to reclaim this project, and finally launched it released this project officially. And that was a turning point, because it was built unofficially by these two people, Dennis and Ken. But when this project was completed, then company AT&T company, which was a Bell Labs, they basically takes all the credit, and they officially launched this Unix. So basically they created, I mean they Dennis and Kane decided to re-implementing this thing, and create they finally completed this operating system called Unix. But when they have completed it, then I forget the name again, from the team, I mean maybe the manager or team leader, they decided to takes all the credit, and they finally launch in the next year with the name called Unix, and they changed the name Unix. And this is the journey of Unix. This is how it was built. And the interesting part is, again, Unix is not for the free purpose. It was not a commercial purpose. It was not a open source. It was used for commercial purposes. So whatever it was, I mean, same like Windows, we need to pay the licenses. Same exactly, we need to pay for Unix also. So Unix is not for open source. We need to pay it, and the it was built in a assembly language. So assembly language is one of the toughest language if you are a programmer, and it was built in entirely the whole source code was written in the assembly language. So I will come back to the same point. Who is thinking about that Unix and Linux is same? I mean, Linux totally clone with the Unix. So I will come on that point also. So Unix officially launched in 1917, and it was used for commercial purposes. And the one of the most operating system that we are using, if you're an Apple user, you know that we in the Apple laptops we are using Mac OS, and Unix is they are using Unix kernel. I mean, Mac OS, Apple decided to buy a license from Unix kernel. They are using Unix kernel, and they built their own operating system called Mac OS. So again, Unix, Linux, and Unix both are one of the most secure operating system. There is no doubt. We will come on that point. But the thing is, Unix and Linux is not an operating system. It is a kernel based operating system. It is, you can call it operating system, because when uh, kernel is not a part of it, it's not a kernel is not a operating system. Kernel is a part of operating system, and without kernel, Linux is not completed. I mean, Linux using a kernel, Unix is also using kernel, and with the help of kernel you can create your own distributions. The distribution is nothing like operating system. Okay, so this is the meaning of kernel, but we will cover more in details what is a kernel and operating system. But in, I mean, in brief information, this is a history of Unix, how it was started. Then they have withdraw the project, and after that, Unix was created by two people, Dennis and Kane. And once it was completed, then Complete decided to reclaim it, and they takes all the credit, and they have finally launched the market. And after 2 or 3 years, they have launched the version Unix version 6, and that version was getting a more popular in the market. Everyone start using it. I mean, the company will start using it, not individually, because it is still in a commercial based, licenses based. So after some time, because it is a commercial based, this is a problem also, because if I want to use Unix, I want to use a multi-user multitasking operating system. How can I use it without without paying without giving the money, right? Because the decided, I mean, when something is created, every I mean, there is always be some solutions also. I mean, if I'm creating something, right, the competitors are kind of there is always uh, disadvantages also, and that disadvantages can be helpful for other competitors. So again, I mean, in this story, the problem started with the commercial based licenses, because the Unix license was very expensive. Not individual can afford for using for personal laptops. Not everyone can use it. So in 1969, the basically the person called Linus, he was basically decided to create their own operating system. Okay, he was decided to create their own kernel based operating system, and he finalized, because the problem was he basically was his thinking was to make this operating system free for everyone. And there is a I mean, he decided to make this thing for free and with multi-user multitasking. The problem was basically, initial problem was commercial purpose, commercial license, and uh, multi-user multitasking. Unix solved the multi-user multitasking, but it was using for commercial. Then Linux, who just came in this uh, story, and he decided to create on operating system and make them free for everyone. So Linux basically is a, now Linux is a kernel based operating system, kernel based operating system we can call it. Okay, and he basically launched in 1991 officially, that the version, first version. But again, Linux is a kernel only. He needs someone help to put the free resources, free softwares, and free system softwares to make this thing operating system. So now this making a confusion between it, right? So operating system meaning is co- kernel, which is Linux kernel, plus system softwares, plus utility, plus applications. And when you combine these things, then it makes operating system. So again, Linux is a kernel based only. Okay, it's a kernel, it's a Linux kernel. And then if you want to make operating system, you need a system softwares, utilities, and application to make it more useful and for users, right? So I mean, he take help from his friend who name is Richard. Richard basically also he was all Richard was also in I mean, working on another project called GNU Project. And GNU Project basically role is to providing all the free system softwares, all the softwares for free, and utilities, everything free. Because GN, and he put the name called GNU. GNU means GNU, not for not Unix, not like Unix. So because of Unix is free, then he decided why it is free and I want to make it free. Oh sorry, Unix was a commercial based, he decided to make it free. So Linux kernel and GNU project, they both created, Richard and Linus both basically contribute on one project, and they are finally launched the final release of Linux, and that calls Linux operating system in 1992. This is a history of Linux. I mean, if you go on any Google, if you just Google it, what is Linux, it will be showing up. Linux is like same like Unix, but Linux is not a same like Unix. Now I can say that because Unix operating system is commercial purpose, right? And commercial, if we are saying commercial, then it is not open source. The source code is not available, right? And it was written in Unix was written in the assembly language, and Linux was written in the C languages, and some of the part is in uh, assembly language. So you can think about that how it is same. I mean, Linus, who created the Linux, he wrote all the code in from the scratch. And yes, he took ideas from Unix. Of course, I mean, because that is the only option, you need to take it. And he created the another operating system and he wrote all the codes. It looks like a same Unix, but technically if we say that it is not the same. So languages are different, everything is different. So Linux, when we called it Linux, is an operating system, means Linux kernel plus the system softwares and application and utilities that we need to make an operating system. So this, if you have that kind of functionality, then you can say that Linux is an operating system. So again, I mean, if you want to create your own operating system, because Linux is free, right? Some maybe you, if you know about that, you can create your own operating system with the Linux. So you can use a Linux kernel, right? You can use a Linux kernel, and you can create your own packages managing. Packages is like a application. Packages, uh, in Linux we called it packages, but it's applications, right? Linux, if you can create your own packages and you can use a Linux kernel, then you can name it anything. That is what people are doing it right now, and companies are doing it. So, and that, if you creating any operating system with the help of Linux kernel, you need to say that distro means distributions. So there are many distribution in market. I mean, if you search, and every distribution is used for different purposes. Like if you're doing penetration testing, then probably you are looking for Kali Linux, because Kali Linux has that kind of applications packages for doing the testing. I mean, they have different tools available in that operating system, inbuilt tools, and you don't need to install it. That's why. And the Linux kernel is, they are using the same Linux kernel, and it is easy. Now, I mean, of course, I mean, you might know about the Red Hat Enterprise Linux. So they are using a Linux kernel. Of course, it is free. That's why they are using it. But they have created their own packages manager. They have created their own utilities. They have created their own system configurations, and they have created it and they are selling it in the market. And this is commercial based. Red Hat Enterprise Linux is commercial based. And in the another hand, Fedora Linux is a free operating system. You can use it. Distribution, sorry. Debian based Linux, it is also a distribution. It is a totally free. Ubuntu is free. There are many other also like a Kali Linux, Parrot OS, many Linux operating systems. This is a history. I mean, you just need to know about that, but you need to know and understand about what is kernel, because kernel is the main thing of the Linux. If you don't know about the kernel, then might be you will fail in interview, because kernel is not a operating system. It is different thing. And let's discuss about that. So Unix versus Linux. So both are same. Um, so originated when it was originated, Linux was officially launched in 1990s, the first version, okay, and not in the publicly, but it was launched it. Then Again, it was launched in 1991, and then 1992 officially they have launched it with the distribution, multiple distribution, and Red Hat was also using it. Unix was developed in 1970 in Bell Labs and GE, with GE. And in I mean, Linux is a open source. You can use it, the source code, you can, it's a totally free. You don't need to pay anything for licenses. It's totally free. And there is a, i mean large community. If you have any kind of issues with the with installing and with any kind of issues, then you can start connecting with people together. And Unix is developed in AT&T labs and different commercial vendors. It is basically totally uh, different for open source. You need to pay a license, everything. License again, it's you don't need to pay it. You need to pay in Unix. Kernel of the kernel is important. The kernel, both have a similar design. The Unix and Linux both are using a kernel, and they have similar design, but Linux kernel is less complex than Unix kernel, because Unix was written in uh, assembly language, and Linux kernel was written in a C language. So you can compare. If you're a programmer, you can understand this pain. Assembly language is a little bit difficult to understand, but C language is mostly you might learning in schools also, right? So so kernel, what is kernel? Maybe you can ask. So operating system is system software, right? Operating system means who is operating the system. Means it has a capability to operate the entire system, which is hardware and user inputs output, right? Whatever we are sending commands, whatever we are telling to the computer, it is handling it, then it is telling to the computer, to the hardware, right? And kernel is a part of operating system. Without kernel you cannot run operating system, because kernel is a middle job of the software and hardware. So basically operating system is providing the interface between application and user, because when we are typing, when we are running any application, we are directly connecting with the application, right? And that is uh, done by the operating system. But kernel providing the interface between applications and hardware. And that's why we sometimes, if you know that, that's why we are not directly connecting with the kernel in Linux. So there is a middle job, or we can say middle person, which is a kernel. So let's see what is a architecture of operating system. uh, so before checking the architecture, let's discuss about why we choose Linux. I think you might understand now why we are choosing Linux, because of the a lot of problem with the Microsoft, and we do not have the multi-user and multitasking operating system, so they have decided to create it. So this is what I wrote here. So it is a open source environment. It is totally free. I'm not talking about the Unix, Linux. I'm talking about why we choose Linux. It is totally free. You can use it. You can implement all the softwares, all the applications are free, because it is using a GNU, right? GNU project. So it is totally free. The second thing is multi-user multitasking with the flexibility. The You can understand now, multi-user means suppose you are using a Windows, right? You have installed any game or any heavy applications, and when you installed it, when it is completed, computer is asking to restart your computer, right? And this is really frustrating sometimes, because if you're running any app, if you're doing some work uh, together installing the application, you cannot turn off your laptop, right? You cannot do that. And this is this is individual thinking. But think about if you're working as companies, right? They are working differently. They're implementing applications uh, on servers, right? And if we are going to install any application, why we need to restart the entire servers? So this is a problem. This is a major problem. This will create a downtime of the customer. This will create the this will create a time dependency, right? That we need to restart it. So this will cost you more if you're working as a company. So that's why we created operating system called multi-user and multitasking. In Linux, you can install the application with one command, and that application will be run, and then you can use it. That is really easy. I will show you how to do that, and it is a really secure. Again, micro. We are discussing about Mac OS, right? Mac OS is the one. Apple is the one of the most secure operating system. We are saying that iPhone is more secure, everything is more secure, but they are using a Unix kernel, and Unix and Linux kernel both are similar. So but again, they are not entirely secure because they are controlling that operating system. Apple is controlling Mac OS, they are controlling iPhone, everything. But if you're using Linux, no one is controlling it. Unix is controlled by Unix community, right? Because it is a commercial based operating system, but Linux is the one operating system which is secured. And why? Because no one is controlling it, no one is checking what activities you are doing it, and it is more kernel secured, everything is secured. Reliability, again, if you're installing multiple application, you don't need to uninstall, you don't need to restart your computer, and this is make a reliability. So I think you have clear about the Linux concept. Let's discuss about the architecture. So in architecture, if you're from non-technical background, the might be you need to understand this thing. So architecture is that when we are building a computer, we need these things. So hardware is a one thing that you might see in our computers, right? The RAM, CPU, GPU, network interface card, and so on, that required to build a computer. This is a computing power, we call it also. Second thing is a kernel again. So kernel is a middle person which basically connected between the operating system and hardware, and it is helping uh, to the applications to uh, run properly. It is managing and handling the input output of the application and providing to the all resources from the hardware. So suppose if you're running any application, like if you want to run any if you're running GTA Vice City, right? When you're running a GTA 5 game, then in the website they are saying that you need a 5 GB RAM or 10 GB RAM, whatever. I'm just taking an example, right? And you need that kind of RAM in your hardware, in your computer. And when you start installing that application, the kernel will basically help you to give you that RAM from the hardware, because you will not directly connect with the hardware. You need someone from the center to get that RAM from the hardware. And of course, hardware is just a thing, that is a physical component, and after that all the things is a virtual component. Like a kernel, you cannot touch it. It is written in the languages, assembly, C languages, and operating system is also written in another languages, like in like Richard written GNU project in C language. So it is written in C language, taking an example of Linux. And everything after the hardware, it is the virtual components, right? So from the low, you can see user. When you are executing any application, user execute any application will operating system will help you to run that application. Why? Because operating system helping providing the interface between user and application, like I said. And once you are able to execute it, you need some computing power, right? And that computing power help you to grab it from the kernel. Kernel will help you to grab from the hardware. So this is the architecture. if anything is missing in here, you will not able to run any applications. So if something like kernel is missing here, then operating system will not run, because not application will handle everything. Kernel is required. So in operating system, every operating system like a Windows, Linux or Mac OS has two functionality. One is GUI, which is graphical user interface, and one is shell, and also we can call it command line interface. So GUI is the one basically we are using it in Windows, which is most of the popular uh, graphical user interface, and that's why we are using, because it is simple to use it. You can right click and you can create a folders, you can do whatever you want, right? And although we have in Linux also, we have GNOME operating system, I mean softwares, GNOME and KDE, we have it. You can create, I mean you have the interface, you graphical user interface in Linux also, but Linux is more popular with the command line interface. And we will discuss about the command line interface in entire series, because that is what we need to learn to get the jobs. So I think you understand some basic things, and you get some idea of what basically we are going to learn it in the next videos. And in the next video, of course, we need to set up our laptop to make Linux run in our laptop. And we will set up a virtual machine first, then we will set up a Linux environment. So I think you understand the basic concept, and if you have any kind of doubts, you can put a comments below. I will try to reply in the next video, and we will try to reply in the comments also. So subscribe the channel, hit the bell icon, and stay tuned with the next video.